Welcome into the Sports Buffoons Podcast.
Welcome on in, everybody, to another Monday night NBA playoff discussion. We got a couple topics outside of the playoffs tonight, but, you know, it should still be a fun time here. I am joined by JG tonight again. JG, welcome on in.
What's up, y'all?
Man, what a crazy kind of weekend it's been, right?
Yeah, pretty wild. You had, what was it, the Kentucky Derby had an 80-1 long shot that won the whole thing.
Yeah, like, I don't know. It was nuts. Tonight, guys, oh, by the way, my name is Tanner Dawson. I am with this other sports buffoon here, as you can see here. We will bring in Nick Bodkins, at Bodkins_Nick. Also has a channel, BodkinsComedy. You catch him every Tuesday night giving a weekly recap, right?
Yeah, it's just like a fun, free-flowing weekly recap of everything in sports. Pretty much kind of catch up all the busy people that can't watch or can't catch everything and don't really know what's going on.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I've checked out a couple of them. So
I just kind of a quick, brief, summary of it all.
Yeah, hey.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Doesn't hurt. Yeah, definitely. So, guys, today we got a little bit of a list today to go through.
Yeah. So check it out. Like, subscribe, comment on all of them. Yeah.
Awesome. Let's see here. Make sure we're all synced up. There we go. All right. So today, guys, we got to talk about. We're going to talk about a little rumor mill going on between the Lakers and the Nets. Then we're going to hop into a little bit of the MVP Joker. Then we're going to hit up a little bit of a discussion, what's going on with that Memphis and Golden State series, because that's just a wild series going on. Then we'll kind of recap a little bit all the games and give it a quick discussion there. So let's hit her off. So Jason, you brought this up today, and I thought it was quite interesting. There is a rumor going around that LeBron James with the Lakers and Kyrie Irving could be swapping spots. What is this about?
Well, before we start this, I always try to never, we've tried so hard over the past few weeks to never talk about the Lakers on this show. But at some point, you just can't help it. And I do want to rename. I think they should ditch the Lakers and come up with a new name called the Dumpster Fire, because that's like my favorite name to refer to them as. But yeah, so, there's rumors out there that LeBron James could potentially be traded for Kyrie Irving. And, that's a great trade if you're the Brooklyn Nets fan. But, I mean, if the Lakers do that, they're going to piss away their team. I mean, that Kyrie is an amazing player. You probably won't worry about the vaccination mandate next season. But I also think that he's a declining player. I mean, yeah. That's the only reason why he stayed healthy this whole season is because he only played in half the games. And I just think that, yeah, go ahead.
He's only played in I think he's never played in 82 games, maybe once, I think. Is the max he's played is 60 games, I believe. And who's making that trade, though? Is LeBron James, the GM, making that trade? LeBron James, the coach, making that trade? Or LeBron James, the player, making that trade?
Well, I think LeBron just wants to get the heck out of there, man. I mean, that team is a train wreck. And, at least if you send Kyrie over there, then LeBron can leave. And then you got a couple of injury-prone guys on the same team with Russell Westbrook, and they can just kind of, shit the bed for a couple of years, I guess.
Yeah, but you would have to send away Russell Westbrook somewhere in that trade, because you can't have Kyrie and Russell back there. Russell is not going to work well with another guard back there.
Technically, you could because Kyrie is pretty good at playing off the ball. So you could make it work, but it would still be a disaster.
I mean, it's a dumpster fire, but LeBron's the one that signed off on all those guys. LeBron's the one that wanted Russ Westbrook to bring in. He's the one that brought Carmelo in. And I knew from the day one when Russ went there to go to the Lakers that him and LeBron weren't going to work together. They're the same similar type of player, ball dominant hand, got to have it in their hands. And Russ can't shoot. Russ has never been a great three-point shooter. And he's a guy that has to get to the basket, can get the rebounds and the assists, but he's never been a great three-point shooter. LeBron's the exact same way. Not an overall great three-point shooter, but a playmaker. And you got two playmakers, and LeBron needs guys that can shoot threes. And then you bring in Melo, who still can't shoot. He's never been a great three-point shooter. You got Russ, who can't shoot threes. And then you got Anthony Street Clothes Davis, who can't even get on the floor. So,
yeah, I mean,
it's a bad time.
It would be a wonderful trade for the Nets, but the other thing I thought of is the narrative because, we got all over KD when he couldn't beat Golden State, so then he went to play for Golden State. Well, it's kind of the same thing here because LeBron could never beat KD when he was on Golden State. He was 0-2 against Golden State with KD. So now it's kind of the same narrative. Well, you can't beat him, so let's go join KD on another
That's
team.
not the case, dude. This is so different than KD joining.
So I heard
it's
that
the same thing, dude. It's the same
rumor I had heard, and it was like Kendrick Perkins talking about it, was trading Kyrie for Anthony Davis. Both teams get rid of their headaches, and that's more of the swap that I could see happening. Teaming LeBron and Kyrie doing what they did in Cleveland.
A reunion?
Russ Westbrook out, and then Anthony Davis and Kevin Durant. Who's going to suit up more games? They can have a race. Who's playing the most games?
Just bring back James Harden for that Nets team. You'll be. There's nothing like why would you ever do that?
I mean, the Nets would have the softest minded team in the league, right? You have Simmons, KD, and Davis all together. So they could sign us three up, and we could run we could play more games than them because they would need us.
We'd still be averaging 30 minutes.
I would so much love to see Ben Simmons, Kyrie, Anthony Davis, and Kawhi Leonard all on the same team, and to just let it be a rat race. See if any of those guys can play more than 20 games in a season.
Oh man, I want to see that. I want to see that happen. That just sounds so insane to me. A Kyrie LeBron reunion would be nuts. But you would have to definitely have a couple other pieces there to make that work because obviously I think Westbrook would be out the door for sure then. But as far as the Nets, it's not looking good for the Nets. Their future is not hot because there's already rumors Durant and Irving are, there's a split there possibly happening. And like Brooklyn is not going to like next year, I don't think.
They have that situation. What's going to happen with Steve Nash? There's rumors that he could be out. I mean, is Ben Simmons there's rift between there because that guy's softer than Sharman. And every time somebody yells at him, his back hurts. So what's going to happen when he's just going to play like Brooklyn home games and then that's it? He's going to do like the same, like the opposite of Kyrie. Like he's only going to play home games because fans will cheer him. But then when he goes to away games, his back will flare up because he doesn't want to face the noise.
Yeah, that's what's going to happen. He's going to that was it DL whatever it is for NBA. I was thinking injured list for MLB, but the guy's just going to be sitting there day to day, essentially the whole entire year, and just playing when he wants. And that's going to hurt. And that's and he's still not going to play, so it don't matter. So yeah, no, it'll be an interesting situation. That's an interesting rumor, Jason, that you brought today. We'll have to keep an eye on that too, because things are going to start heating up as we get closer to the draft, as we get past the finals next month. So here's another breaking news here. Woj, ESPN Woj broke today that the Joker will be winning MVP later this week. So, what's our thoughts on this? Well, obviously, I'm not totally surprised. That's who I picked in our show a few weeks ago when we were talking about it. Just for the fact the guy finished his top 3 stats that you need in a player was all top 10, all basically top 9. I think it was like 8, 4, and 2, 1, something like that. And the guy didn't have his 2 best players the entire year and still brought him to the playoffs. So, give me something here, JG. What are we thinking? What's going through your mind? I know there was a lot of reaction to it. So, what are you thinking?
I honestly don't have a problem with it. I mean, it was a 3-man race all along. I wouldn't have had a problem if you give it to any of those 3 guys because it was so close. But I have no problem with Joker getting it. I mean, he averaged 27, 13, and 8. I personally wouldn't have voted for him. And I know a guy that I like to watch a lot on Fox Sports is Chris Broussard. He's kind of their NBA analyst, and he said he cast his vote for Giannis. I personally would have gone for Giannis. A lot of people would have gone for Embiid. If you just want to nitpick, my big way to nitpick on this is the fact that I don't think the best player on a number 6 seed should ever be the MVP. I mean, unless you're like Russell Westbrook, who averaged an MVP or averaged a triple-double. So if you're not doing something like that, averaging a triple-double, then you shouldn't be the MVP. I think the measuring stick should be if you can bring your team to the level where you can host a playoff series, meaning the 4 seed or greater. If Joker could have done that, I have no problem with it. But, and all this talk about not having Michael Porter Jr. or Jamal Murray, I mean, who cares? Like, there's guys that get injured all year long. There's superstars that have to play with, a lesser team because guys on their team get injured. So I kind of got tired of listening to that. I mean, yeah, big deal. You escaped the play-in tournament. Congratulations. So I personally wouldn't have done it, but obviously the numbers are there. So, I'm not going to complain too much.
What do you got, Nick?
I'm kind of with you guys. I mean, it was a 3-man race to me. Like, it was Giannis, Embiid, Joker. Pick which one. I'm kind of like with you guys. Like, he got the 6th seed. Here's my question. I know it's like a regular season award. If Giannis was on the Nuggets, do they get out? They're probably not the 6th seed, correct? Like, I mean, if he put him on the Nuggets with that roster, I still think they get to the 4th seed. And I sure shit don't get gentlemen swept by the Warriors in round 1. I mean, look what he's doing now without Chris Middleton, his second best player in the postseason. So, like, he to me is the best player in the league is Giannis. I mean, when he puts his head down, you're not stopping him. I mean, it's like a LeBron James-esque when he was in his prime to me. I mean, Joker had the numbers. I mean, those are numbers that nobody's ever put up, and I get that. But again, like you said, he's the best player on a 6-seeded team that got gentlemen swept out by the Warriors. They didn't even make that a series. I mean, he was down his 2 best guys, but everybody's been down their best guys. Their other 2 best players at a time or 2. And they just didn't – if you're the MVP, you elevate people's games, right? Like, that's what you're supposed to do. Like, that's what great players do is elevate other people around them. And he didn't really do that. Or else, like, they would have got to the 4th seed, I believe. And the West was good, but now you can't just say, oh, the West is harder than the East, because I feel like if you look the rank the teams now, even in the playoffs, it's kind of like you're like, oh, they could make a run. They could win it. They could win it in these top, like, 8 teams or so. You could see. So I probably would have voted for Giannis. I didn't mind even if Embiid would have got it because I thought he did well. And amidst, like, he carried the 76ers there for a long time before they got for the Harden trade because he was out Simmons. And we saw Maxey come along, and we saw Tobias Harris kind of be that third wheel to help them out. So he's kind of elevated their team. The Bucks really could have been this 2 seed. They sat. If you remember, they sat the last game of the playoffs to face the Bulls. They rather face the Bulls instead of the Nets and let the Celtics catch the 2 seed, and they got the 3 seed or whatever, the 3 seed, so where they could play each other. So that's kind of what happened there. So I would have rather seen Embiid or Giannis get it. I get maybe they didn't want to give Giannis 3. That would have been 3rd time for Giannis, I believe, right? Like, it would have been if he would. So maybe they didn't want to give it to him 3 times, but you could have gave Joel 1 and then let the Joker got it last year. But I mean, that's just kind of where I see it.
Yeah, that's the problem is they have this unwritten rule that you can't get it 3 times in a row. But I definitely agree with you as far as Giannis throwing him on the Nuggets. Yeah, they would pretty easily get to the 4 seed, no doubt. And the other problem I have with Jokić is that, the MVP should never be a guy that gets pulled, and gets benched in 4th quarters when they're switching out offense for defense because he is a major defensive liability. You should never be able to say that about an MVP. And we all know that would never happen. You're never going to pull out Embiid or Giannis because they can't play defense. So, I've always been a defensive-minded guy, but to me, that just seems like common sense. You're not going to give the award to a guy like that. But again, he deserved it. I mean, he had his numbers and whatnot. So I'm not too upset about it.
That's true, but I feel like a lot of superstars aren't great defenders. I mean, look at Luka Doncic. I mean, they go at him in the fourth. He's not the greatest defender. Even somebody like Donovan Mitchell's another superstar. I mean, Luka's a future MVP. Like, mark my words. Like, he's probably going to get it in the next 2 years or less. I just see him continue to grow. If Dallas can continue to get him some help, but I like his game. But he's not great defensively. But man, that kid can ball. And I definitely agree. Where like, hey, if he's getting subbed out, but like they got to leave Luka out there, like unlike they can with the Joker.
Well, I would give Luka a little bit more credit than that, because like, even though he's not a great defender, at least he knows how to flop and get off foul. So if he's getting, that's a part of playing defense. And the Joker just, I've heard a lot of people just call him, like he's a fat bum or whatever. Maybe that was Markeith Morris. I don't know who called him that, but at some point you can't be a defensive liability. So.
And maybe we just not giving Joker credit because like he looks like a guy just like us, like would just sit here and we can play cornhole and drink beer with, and you would never know he was in the NBA if he wasn't 7 foot, right? Like, I mean. Yeah,
then he hops out there and he does all these, passing the moves, shooting. Like, what kind of guy does that looks like us? Like, come on.
He's rocking the dad bod for us, He
really is. He's winning MVPs with it. So let's roll, baby. Yeah. So something to think about, too. I think the thing that really hurts the MVP talk discussion, and we hear it year in, year out, right? James Harden and stuff like that, is it always comes in the middle of the playoffs. And we're already thinking we're pretty much already in the second round of the playoffs, so we're already seeing the results, right? Jokić gets swept the first round, or Harden gets eliminated with the Rockets. That they were so dominant and stuff, or something that matter of going on. And I think the MVP gets confused that, it's how you also perform in the playoffs. Well, it's not, because the playoffs don't matter for MVP. It's up to that, 72nd game, and that's it. So whatever he does to the 72nd, I think as long as he gets himself to the playoffs, I'm not saying play-in, I said playoffs. Get your team to the playoffs, and you perform with the stats that he had this year. I just don't think you can't give it to him. You can't.
Yeah. So I think getting the 6th seed in the West this year is just trash. I mean, there are a lot of teams that could have done that if they had Jokić on their team, but the 6th seed to me is not the mark of excellence, and so that's why I had a problem with it.
And that's where I said, like, if you switch the 3 guys we're talking about, I think, like I said, with Giannis, if he was on the Sixers, they're probably, the 2 seed or so in the East. I mean, the Bucks already were the 3 seed. You put them on the Nuggets, they're higher. Is Jokić, if you put him on Milwaukee, they're definitely not the 3 seed, I don't think, in the East.
No, I don't know.
I mean,
I don't know. He's more of a facilitator in looking to get guys open. That's the thing with Jokić.
He is, but just not that legit scorer where Giannis can just. I mean, I just love those guys, those dominant guys that. I need a bucket. I need a bucket now, and that's the guy that
Giannis is one of my favorites by far, and just the way he plays. Like I was watching Shaq it was a TikTok that came up, and somebody asked Shaq, between Anthony Davis and Giannis, who's more? Who has more talent? And so, they said Anthony Davis. He goes, I knew you would say that. And then they showed a clip of Giannis and Anthony Davis going at it. And it was just Giannis, hardworking, being smart, playing hard the entire 100% of the time. And then it showed Davis pretty much getting slacking off in a way. Like, he's like, oh, yeah, I'm here. But Giannis is, on him. And then he, then he comes around the corner after a pass, and he's always open, looking for the ball, whatever he's got to do. And it's just a work ethic on it. So Giannis is definitely one of my favorites.
I just want to mention the joke of the day. Speaking of Shaq, I don't know if you guys heard, Rudy Gobert said he would shut down prime Shaq in his prime. And
I'm not sure he could do it right now. I don't even know if he
exactly.
Shaquille O'Neal is a monster.
I didn't know Rudy was a comedian. I didn't understand Rudy was a comedian. Does COVID make you become a stand-up comic? I mean,
so
get
bad.
Shaquille O'Neal weighs like 400 pounds now. I don't think Gobert could stop him right now.
No, he could not in the half court. Not in the half court for
Heck
sure.
no.
That's amazing. All right, guys, we'll move on here. So, as the series has been continuing of the Golden State Warriors and Memphis Grizzlies, there is another controversial play that has happened. John Morant has a knee injury. Currently, he is out for tonight. And there's this, during the play, it was a trap, half court, and Jordan Poole is going for the ball, and then it shows as John Morant was trying to contain it, get it controlled again, that it showed that Jordan Poole looked like he intentionally grabbed his knee and pulled it towards him. And obviously it looked bad with slow motion and everything, but I think as you watch it real time, you could tell like he got a hold of the ball once, Jordan did, and then when he went back for it, it was just an unfortunate deal where he wasn't trying to get the reach-in foul, and he just unfortunately grabbed the leg with the hand. So it's, to me, I don't think it was a dirty play. I don't think it was intentional at all. It was just a play in the moment of kind of what's going down. But Jason, do you have a different view for me?
This is just all media hype more than anything. The media likes to create a narrative that doesn't really exist. Here's the thing, guys. For those of you that don't watch a lot of basketball, if there is a double team, sometimes hands can fly around, and sometimes they can inadvertently brush up against somebody's knee, and usually nothing happens. But I don't think this was an issue at all. The NBA has already handed down their decision. There's not even going to be a fine here.
Oh.
But I did hear reports that John Morant was actually limping around after there was something that happened a couple of plays earlier where he kind of looked like he was hobbled. It's possible that his knee was injured before that play even happened. And as far as the actual play, I've watched it over and over again. He was kind of shuffling his feet around, almost trying to, scramble to try to get the ball back because they were about to steal it from him. And he kind of came down awkwardly on that knee, was shuffling his feet. I feel like it very easily could have been a non-contact injury, and then after the fact, then Jordan Poole just I call it a brush up. He brushed up against his knee while he was going for the ball. So I think the media just, they do what they do. They always try to make something out of nothing. But I do agree with the NBA's decision, and certainly did not grab his knee. He just I feel like he was going for the ball and he just kind of brushed up against it. So that's my take on that.
Yeah, Nick, what do you got?
I got the same thing. I mean, anybody that's ever picked up a basketball and has played a pickup game, high school basketball, any sort of basketball, those things happen, man. A kid dove for the ball. Jaw's leg was there. I have no dirt. Poole's not a dirty player. I think where the media is getting their stuff from is the Memphis coach said it looked like he said that Poole had grabbed at Jaw's leg. And I think he was just trying to protect his guy to get the refs involved to cater the next time, just as Steve Kerr did with the Dillon incident in Game 2. So I just think it was just a big hoopla about nothing. It's a clean play. I mean, accidents happen out there, man. I mean, these are grown men going real fast. And, how many times have you seen it? A bunch. It's not a dirty play. If it had been Draymond, I might have said, hey, it might be a little dirty had it been Draymond Green.
The history, man.
He's got that history. But Jordan Poole's been a clean-cut kid since he's entered the league, never had any problems at Michigan. So I don't think at all, it was at all malicious or dirty. I think it was just a hard-nosed basketball play that, unfortunately, Ja got shaken up. And, one of the most exciting players in the league right now is sitting out a game that they got to have because they can't afford to go down 3-1. So, he's out tonight, and maybe he'll be back for Game 4. But, Memphis, they won like 25 or 20 games
without him.
Without him. So, you know.
And it's going to be an interesting series. So, as we kind of keep talking here, we hit the, summarization of what's going on, what to come, right? So, Memphis and Golden State play tonight. Golden State leads series 2-1. They, obviously it was a bigger victory finally after the third game in, 142 to 112 last game. But I mean, this is really going to come down to Jackson Jr. Brooks should be back for Memphis here, and I mean, but can they contain? Can they control this Warriors team that finally shot the 3-point ball a little bit last game, which is we haven't seen that in a bit. So it's gonna be interesting to see what happens here. But I mean, let's get your thoughts, guys, going on. JG, what you got?
Yeah, I just feel like this was a lopsided series from the beginning. I mean, Ja Morant played pretty much that whole last game, and they got destroyed. Mm-hmm. And if you go back and watch game one, that was some of the worst officiating I've ever seen in my life. That should have never been a close game. I mean, Golden State wasn't getting any calls. The Grizzlies were getting all the calls. It was horrific on the part of the officials. And I think Golden State should have won that first game by 15 or 20 points. That's how bad it was. But in my mind, this is a lopsided series. Even if Ja Morant was playing tonight, it's still in Golden State. It's still being played in San Francisco. And I do believe that this had 3-1 written all over it, even before the Ja Morant injury. And I did have Golden State winning this originally in 6 games. They might be able to pull it off earlier than that now if Ja Morant never comes back. But I did want to get you guys' take right quick because I'm really high on this Jordan Poole kid. And I just want to know what you guys think his ceiling is, because he's an up-and-coming star. And I just want to know you guys' take on, do you think he's a star in the league, or do you think he will eventually be a superstar in the league?
So to the series I'm going to answer a 2-part question here. The series I had Golden State and kind of getting the gentleman's sweep. I just thought the more experienced, better team, the more that those guys have played together, as far as like Draymond, Clay, and Steph, they haven't played all together very much. And now with Jordan Poole, and here's my Jordan Poole answer to answer your question, JG, is I think he can be Klay Thompson-esque, which is, bona fide knockdown shooter, all-star, perennial all-star caliber player. I don't know if he's like a superstar in the making. Like if you're asking me, do I think he's going to be Steph Curry? Probably not. But do I think he can be like the sidekick, the Robin to somebody's Batman? Absolutely. But I mean, time will tell. He's put in a lot of work and has improved. And this is why I hated when Ja got most improved player, because Ja was number 2 overall pick. To me, like what he did this year was just part of his career trajectory. Why are we giving him the most important, most improved, and not somebody like Jordan Poole or Tyrese Maxey in Philadelphia? I thought that was the most asinine thing that the NBA did, was giving Ja that most improved. You can't be improved when you're the 2nd overall pick and you're already having a little bit numbers. That's just your career trajectory. Give it to somebody like Jordan Poole, who burst onto the scene this year, who nobody had really even heard of. They thought about cutting him a couple years ago, like last year. I think they talked about cutting him, and they kept him, and they like him. And now look what he did. That's the most improved player, not Ja Morant.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that, Tanner.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. I think he could be a star. I don't think he'd be a superstar by his career, but he could be the Scottie Pippen to somebody's MJ's caliber style, right? Maybe Melo over there with the Hornets say, hey, MJ, whatever you gotta do, man. Let's go get Jordan Poole. Be my number 2. My number 2, baby.
Let me ask you guys this. I had heard this. Was reading an article, and they were saying maybe that the Warriors should trade Clay to develop Jordan Poole and have him and Curry as the backcourt instead of Klay Thompson. And I mean, if you can keep all 3, I say try to keep all 3. I know it's hard to work that, but I mean, I was kind of shocked. But any team would take Klay Thompson.
Yeah, I would say that Clay and Steph are much older players. Jordan Poole is only 23, so I think at this point you have to keep all of them, because you're only going to have Steph and Clay for another 3 years, 4 years, depending on if Clay gets injured again. So I think Jordan Poole is the future, and I think it's going to be his backcourt. He's going to own that backcourt when those 2 guys are long gone.
I mean, I was thinking more of Draymond leaving before I think Clay and Steph.
Though all
honestly.
three of those guys are getting up there in years.
Yeah, they're getting up there in age, and then they're also just, the miles on their body. Clay's already experienced. He was out pretty much 2 full years, before we got to
Right.
see him,
You guys fair share of rest, essentially,
Yeah.
and rehab. All right, guys. So we'll move on here to the series. It's going to be, again, this is going to be to see if we'll get another controversial play here this week or tonight. So that'll be kind of interesting to see what happens there. But also tonight going on, the Celtics Bucks are currently playing. It's fourth quarter, 80-75 Bucks are up. And we saw the Bucks, they were actually up quite a bit going in the middle of the fourth quarter. And the Celtics came back and essentially lost on what a lot of people are calling a blown call at the 3-point on the 3-point with Marcus Smart, that it should have been a 3-point play instead of a 2-shot foul. So that's kind of interesting on that one, but they also had 3 chances to put it in after that as well to try to tie it. So you can only have so many chances here. Like, NBA does not forgive you. But I don't know, like with the Celtics here and the Bucks, Milwaukee's up 2-1. I still see this series going at least 6, because I still feel like Tatum and what was the other guy?
Jaylen Brown.
Yes, thank you. Jaylen Brown could put up 30 any game they want, and we see it any time they want. They could get close to 30, and we saw that in the fourth quarter as well. So I think, it's tied now, 80-80 right here. And the 9:51 left to play in the fourth. So, this is going to be a back-and-forth series the entire time. But, what's your guys' thoughts here? JG?
I'm with you. I see this as a 6-game series and Milwaukee closing it out on their home court. Now, if you threw in Chris Middleton, I've said this before, I'll say it again, this is a sweep. I don't even think the Celtics would get a game. They wouldn't get a game. Well, except for the fact that we all know that the NBA referees can get you a game. So maybe it would have been a gentleman's sweep. But this, to me, it's lopsided because you take Middleton out of there and, trying to guard Giannis Antetokounmpo is trying to guard like 2 superstars in one. And even without Middleton in there, I'm looking at the box score right now and it's like Tatum's doing okay. Jaylen Brown's doing okay. They've got like 18 and 16 points. I don't know if it's going to cut it in this game. It is being played in Milwaukee. I feel like this is a must-win for both teams because Milwaukee wants to get this thing over with, and the best way to do that is to win games on your home court, especially after they stole one of those first 2. But obviously, it's also a must-win game for the Celtics because Bucks win this game tonight and it's over. But yeah, I'm with you. I'd go Milwaukee in 6.
You know who I haven't heard about since Marcus Smart came back? Drew Holiday. He's been, ever since game 1, I haven't heard his name. He's not performing really well tonight either from 3, so 1 for 5. Nick, what you got?
Yeah, I disagree on the whole sweep of Boston. Boston's too good. Defense is too good. I had Boston in 7, and then I watch Giannis, and I'm like, they cannot guard that man. That's the one player they have no answer for. Jason Tatum has struggled in this series a little bit. He's got to be continued. He's got to get back to being. He can never be Giannis, but he's got to be like the second best player on the floor. In that Brooklyn series, he was sometimes the best player on the floor, and he hasn't been this series. He's got to break out of it. He's kind of shooting. It's getting a little shooting slump. But I have Boston at 7 just because I thought the whole was better than the sum of the parts of Milwaukee, especially without Middleton. But yeah, so I like Boston at 7.
So I'm glad you brought up the defense of Boston because I know they have a good defense, but how good is it? Because is it just good because they played the Nets in round 1, that mess that they've got going over there? Or do you think that they could legitimately, like, even if Middleton was in there, do you think this should be a 7-game series? Even if Middleton was in there?
If Middleton was there, I probably would have picked the Bucks in 6 because I think their defense is that good. Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
statistically, it reminds me so much of the KG type, that Celtic team. That's how good I
Paul
think.
Pierce, Ray Allen. Yeah.
I'm just saying that Nets series was so bad, like that, and that's when people started talking about the fact that Kyrie said, "Oh, we don't need a coach, we don't need to do adjustments and things like that." I mean, that team was all time bad, even though because I would literally watch them. They would just take turns dribbling the ball down the court, not run any sort of offense, and it was Kevin Durant's turn or it's Kyrie Irving's turn, and they just go one-on-one. I mean, that's pretty easy to defend, but I do agree with you that Celtics do have a good defense.
Yeah, definitely. All right, let's hit in the last couple here. So we got Miami Heat and the 76ers here. Jason called it. 76ers tied it up last night with Joel Embiid coming back. Is this pretty much a done series? The 76ers got it?
I think it's over, man. I just look at those first two games, and I think the Heat are going to look at this and have sort of a false sense of confidence, thinking to themselves, well, yeah, we can beat them at home. That's no problem. Well, without Joel Embiid, you probably should have beaten them in both of those two games. And I think they're going to have hell to pay. And I think the Sixers are going to get a game. I've got them winning 4 in a row. I've got them winning Game 5 in Miami and closing it out in Game 6. I was listening to James Harden in the post-game press conference, and his biggest reason why they've built so much confidence is because they're finally starting to gel. They've got more chemistry now, and they've got too many weapons on that team. I mean, yeah, Jimmy Butler is always going to give you what you need, and I mean, I understand when they go back to Miami, Tyler Hero, Victor Oladipo, they're going to get you some points because they're going to play better at home. But I just don't think it's going to be enough, because I think guys like Tobias Harris, I mean, those are seasoned veterans. They're going to play well enough on the road to win this game. But as far as Game 5 is concerned, it's going to come down to James Harden, because, like, is he going to start playing like that every game? I know he's capable of doing that, but is he going to keep playing like James Harden that we once knew, or is he going to start playing like James Larden again and shit the bed?
That's the worry. Yeah, go ahead, Nick.
Oh, sorry, my laptop died, so I
You're good.
back up, y'all. So James Harden looked like James Harden of old, not old James Harden the last game. I mean, he was knocking down. The step back looked clean. He's getting to the free throw line. I think obviously the whole series changed with Embiid coming back. That the 76ers got their mojo back, it seems like, and he's made those other guys better. I picked the Heat originally because I didn't know how long Embiid was out, so I guess I still got to ride with that. I love Jimmy Butler is my favorite player in the league. I just love his mentality, his dog mentality. So I can't ever pick against Jimmy, because he'll fight you in a street fight just to get and steal your money just to get just to win. Like, he'll do anything impossible to wheel that team to win. And I love his, like, if it goes to 7, the Heat can get to 7, I put my money on Jimmy Butler every day of the week over that soft team in Philly.
No, that's fair. I agree. Like, the mentality alone on that team, and what Jimmy's brought to the Heat that he couldn't bring to the Timberwolves, that he couldn't bring to the 76ers, is something amazing. I mean, right? You can call it the bubble championship all you want, but he brought them to a title game when they should have been in the title game in 2020. So, yes, his mentality has spread across that team, and Kyle Lowry joining that, because the Toronto Raptors were kind of similar when DeRozan and Lowry were there. Same mentality. Now Lowry's back in it with the right mentality. That's a different squad. It's a different squad, and I love it.
They're better than that 2020 team that went to the bubble, because now they have Lowry and Oladipo, so he's got better mates, and then Tyler Hero, the 6th man of the year, coming off the bench as well. I mean, once it gets to Miami, those other guys will play a little bit better, but right now, I mean, it's tough, because if James Harden can play like, he doesn't have to play MVP James Harden. He just has to play, good James Harden, not look so old. Like, that first series and the first 2 games, it looked like, I mean, you didn't know who that was out there.
I didn't know what was going on with that guy. Like, sure, it was like 20 points each time, but it wasn't a good 20 points. I didn't think at all.
So just a quick update. You mentioned Kyle Lowry. It said that he re-injured his hamstring and he's going to be questionable for Game 5. So he's playing hurt even if he plays, and I think they
That's
really need
one.
him. Because Philly has so many weapons. I mean, you need him to be healthy, and so that's why I think. I mean, I'm with you. I hope it goes 7, but I think the Sixers are kind of they're the better team. I think, even though I'm with you, I love Jimmy Butler. I mean, he's one of the most likable guys in the league. But I think now that you've got Joel Embiid, I mean, they should be able to dominate those guys.
All right, in the final series that we'll just quickly touch base on here, speaking of referee incidents, Mavericks Suns. This last time around, Mavericks have tied the series 2-2. I still have the Mavericks winning the series, is what I picked at the beginning. I'm not going to go back on it here. I think they're a sneaky team that could produce and beat a team, possibly the Suns. I don't know. It'd be a tough one, but we'll see. Obviously, the referees last game was a little rough here on some of the calls. Chris Paul fouled out. They were, Crowder, Bridges were all up 4 or 5 to finish the game. It just was an ugly style game, really. But I mean, I still have my Mavericks here. I think they can still pull it out here in 6. So, Jason, what you got?
Mavs in 6. You're sticking to your guns.
I'm still sticking to it, man. I'm not backing out on it.
This is. I thought this would be, when we started, the most lopsided out of all the series. I thought this had gentleman's sweep written all over it. One thing I didn't take into account is that we'd be sitting here after Game 4 and looking at the fact that the referees, I think they hate Chris Paul. They just hate him for whatever reason.
Chris Paul has the worst luck in playoff history of any player.
He
ever.
does.
I mean, it's always something, right?
Seriously, he played 23 minutes. 23 minutes, and the Mavs only won by 10 points on their home court. And CP3 had 5 points. I mean, they've got it in for this guy. I don't think they're gonna try to make the Suns lose the series, but they're trying to extend this thing out to 7 games. And I think the Suns they're the best team, so they have to win the series. But I think that's awful what they did to CP3. I mean, he's just you got to have your best players in the game, and the refs kind of took him out of the game.
Yeah, Nick. I mean, what are you thinking on this series?
I had Suns in 6, and I still think that. And the reason I was kind of with JG, it could have been. I thought it was going to be almost a gentleman's sweep, but I gave Luka 2 games because I thought he's worth 2 games, and that in Dallas they would catch. Would win 2 there. I just think that the Suns as a whole are better, right? Top to bottom. I mean, and then you go once it goes back to Phoenix. I mean, are those guys like Jalen Brunson? Are they going to be able to continue what they're doing?
No, they won't.
Exactly, and I'll take those guys. I like Mikal Bridges and DeAndre Ayton's probably I guess he's really their 3rd best player on the Suns. But I mean, he can. Outside of Luka, who's good on the? I mean, who is? Can
Brunson?
you say, hey, those guys on that squad can if we swap players, where is the Mavs advantage? Outside of Luka, every other player on the starting position and on the bench, the Suns players are better.
Oh yeah.
So I'm sticking with my Suns in 6. I gave Luka his 2 games. He really got one, and the rest gave him another one. So there we are. That's where we're at.
Well, and we saw Game 2 as well, right, with the Suns as they were going to a close game inside middle of the 4th quarter, and then Chris Paul erupts, and the next thing you know, Booker's hitting threes, Crowder's hitting, everybody's hitting threes, and they're up by 20 in 2 minutes. And it's just that kind of team that the Suns have been all year. I mean, my only defense here with the Mavericks here is that they've just been like this team that has grown the chemistry together for however they did it, and they've just slowly worked their way up, silently up there. And I mean, you never know. Luka disappointed some guys last year on a team in the playoffs, so I mean, he could do it again before you know it. But I mean, the Suns are definitely, I think, Suns are the better team. They should win the series, but you never know. It's professional sports, right? It really is.
And Chris
So,
Paul will probably get hurt or something because that's what happens to Chris Paul in the playoffs every time. I mean, Chris Paul, they call him the point god or
The point god.
The point god, right? Like, I mean, but if he was the point god, he'd have about 6 championship rings because the guy has the worst luck in the postseason of any player I've ever seen. He's always getting hurt or somebody on his team's getting hurt. They're choking 3-1 in the playoffs. I mean, he's been a part of some devastating playoff losses. I mean, finally got to the ship last year, but I mean, then they ended up losing in that series. So, I mean, is he really the point god, as all the kids would like to say?
Well, I think maybe the refs will start giving him some calls. You know, maybe it'll go his way because they probably feel sorry for him now that his family got attacked there in the arena. But I did want to ask you guys right quick. I'm skipping ahead a little bit, but if we happen to see Suns versus Warriors, who you got and how many games?
I took the Warriors from the day one. I said when the playoffs started, I got Warriors in the West. It's probably going 7. I think it would go 7, and I'm taking the Warriors in 7.
Yeah, I'm still sticking with the Warriors. We talked about this on a few Wednesday shows, and I can't go away from the Warriors despite how great the Suns have been. I can't go away from the Warriors.
Right. I just want to see so bad. I want to see a healthy Chris Middleton, and I want to see Bucks versus Warriors because I think that would be very, very interesting NBA Finals to watch.
I got Bucks versus Celtics in the finals. I said, or I have Warriors in the Celtics.
Okay.
In the finals, I've said that since the playoffs started. So I'm riding with the Celtics. They're probably going to get beat by Giannis, but I still got to ride with them.
I think I still have the Warriors and Bucks in the finals. So, I mean,
all right,
this makes sense. So, any other thoughts, guys, on the NBA news here? No? All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, please make sure you go follow BodkinsComedy YouTube channel here. He, like I said, every Tuesday night, he gives a little weekly recap of what's going on there. Go follow him on Twitter, right? At Bodkins_Nick.
Yeah, Twitter, YouTube's out there as well. So just trying to grow the following. It's something I just recently started, probably within the last month or so. So there's not too many episodes, but I have even a little bit of stand-up on there because I just love putting stuff, just even like my own opinions of comedy pieces out there as well as on the YouTube. So it's all out there, mixed in with sports and comedy because it's life, man. It's fun.
Hey,
you're a Packers fan too, right?
Truly, yep,
right.
Through and through, yeah.
Yeah, thanks for being on with us and chatting with us.
Always.
We really enjoyed it.
It's been a pleasure.
That was a good time. All right, guys, make sure you guys go follow his channel. Make sure you guys also go check out Let's Talk Sports with Dan there. He's got a lot more interviews coming up as well. We just had a big collab yesterday on the channel. Nick joined me as well. And Ryan Larison was there. Carlos. We had a few other Jeremy was on there. So we had some great discussions on there on some NFL topics and some NBA. So he's been doing that a little bit more here and there. So make sure you go check that out. And you guys can follow us here. We'll be Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Central, right here, same channel, Twitter, YouTube, Twitch, Facebook. We'll be going over some more NBA, maybe a little bit of NFL. I mean, the schedule drops on Thursday, so it's really unfortunate that we don't get to talk to the NFL schedule and get some projections, but we'll save that for a week on that one. But yeah, make sure you guys follow us there. Other than that, guys, we'll see you next week, Monday, 8 o'clock Central, same time, same channels. You guys, thank you for joining us. Have a great day.
We're out.